All right, guys, welcome to the Closing Call podcast with your host. That's me. I'm Jimmy Henderson, and we have our amazing guest here, Ashley. Is it Ashley Bosse, Ashley Bosse? What do you actually go by?
So my name is Ashley Lubetkin. That's my married name.
Okay.
Maiden name is Ashley Bosse, which
Okay.
is where Bosse Lending came
Bosse
from.
Lending. So I've got you as Ashley Bosse, but I know on social media it's Lubetkin. I said I'm going to ask her before the podcast starts,
Thanks.
and then I hit the button and then forgot to ask
okay.
you. So here we go. Today, Ashley, like she mentioned, she's the queen of hard money lending. I gave her that title just now. And so we're going to get into a little bit about who she is and kind of our background, our relationship. But she's going to answer some of these questions about hard money lending that I know a lot of you have. Last week's episode, I mentioned that we're going to be starting a class on flipping. And one of the big questions that everybody has when it comes to flipping, when they want to get started, is, where does the money come from? And I think they think that I'm just sitting on like this giant pile of cash, when in fact Ashley's the one sitting on the cash. But so we're going to get into some of those questions. So I'm very much excited about this episode. So we will get started.
Amazing.
So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me. So I want to ask you some background information on who you are outside of the hard money lending world.
Okay.
And I mentioned before the show started, I want that to be whatever you want it to be. So what would you like to share with us as far as who you are? Who is Ashley Bosse Lubetkin Bosse?
I am an investor, as we spoke about. But I think more than Bosse Lending, beyond Bosse Lending, I am, a friend, daughter, aunt. I'm very multifaceted. I'm very into giving back to the community, to charity. And Bosse Lending has been an amazing vehicle to do that in a very different way, because I can take the funds from Bosse Lending and help other borrowers, investors grow their business. So I look at it as, how can I make the biggest impact on our communities? And if my borrowers, my real estate investors, are rehabbing property, bringing the communities up by doing so, by taking a distressed house and restoring it and bringing it to a new family, I see that as like the ultimate act of service.
Right.
Because, what's better than like providing a new home from somebody?
Right.
What's better than, raising a community? Because that's how you do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have found that Bosse Lending has been like one of the most rewarding things for me, because I've not only been able to see so many of my clients succeed and beyond even, I think, their wildest dreams, my wildest dreams, but also I've made such good friends. I love being here with you, seeing your success over the years. So yeah, I think Bosse Lending is one part of it, but it's like a really great source of pride and fulfillment for me.
Awesome. I love that, because, if you think, for example, if we could go to one of the big banks, let's say one box banks, and say, hey, here are our financials and I want to get a line of credit, let's say. But other than the person opening the line of credit that we say hi to and how are your kids and that kind of stuff, what we're doing with that, there's no real investment personally, right?
Yeah.
It's just, here are the terms and here's the money, and, let's all go make money together, right?
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you say, look, this is something that Bosse Lending has provided a means to do good in the world, both rehabbing communities, houses, which means a new home for a new family, and then also that flipper, that investor you're using those funds to do things, that's their family is also being blessed and rewarded. So I love that. So did you recently get married, like in the last few years?
No, I've been married for a while, but I just have a identity crisis with my last name.
No, well, I remember maybe it was just wedding photos or photos or something that was on social media. So tell me, where do you live? What part of the country do you live in?
So we're in Dallas now.
Okay.
So
were you in New York before?
We were in New York for a long time. My husband and I were in New York for a long time. That's where I started Bosse Lending.
Okay.
But I grew up in Dallas.
Okay.
So I was born and raised in Dallas. My whole family is here.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was very much surrounded by the real estate community in Dallas for a long time. So I've always believed in it, regardless of where I've lived. I've always thought that Texas real estate was where it was at,
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I love Texas real estate. It's funny when people on a grand scale talk about real estate. They're like, oh, well, the market's going to crash or it's going to do this or that. And I'm like, yeah, but not in Texas. I mean, we do our dips and our ups and downs,
Totally.
but being centrally located, we know that
Yep.
usually things on the coast is where things start to go up. And then, that wave does this. And by the time it gets to the middle, it's not as big. So I love Texas real estate. So tell me about, have you always been in lending, or like, does your family do that, or how did you get into doing what you do now?
Great question. So no, I haven't always been in lending. My family is not in lending. My parents are in real estate, but totally separate, not a part of the business. We've kept that separate. My husband is not a part of the business. He is an investor in Bosse Lending.
I love that. So she's like, it's all me. I just want you to know it's all me.
Well, I love when I get the phone call that, is your husband there? Can I speak to your husband?
Wow, you still get that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that maybe 2023, but I still get that.
That's funny.
And I'm like, he is
Mr. Bosse, is he available?
Yeah, exactly. Literally. That's what I joke about. He's like, why was it not called Lubetkin Lending? I'm like, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So no, it's me. So my husband and I were living in New York City. This is how I started Bosse Lending. We were living in New York City. I was working for developers in New York City. That's what was my career for the first 10 years or so. Working for building like big apartment complexes with like multi-billion-dollar sellouts, like really what I call like sexy.
Yeah. That's
very
the big stuff.
Very sexy.
Yeah.
And my husband is in finance and he was doing his thing. And we knew we didn't want to settle in New York.
Okay.
So we had a little cash sitting in the bank. And my dad gave me the idea. He's like, why don't you lend it out?
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean lend it out?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? And so I started, doing some research and whatnot. And I started lending it out. And I called my husband and I was like, give me your money.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll pay you a return.
She's like, I got an idea. Yeah.
I'm going to lend our money out. And so that's how it started. And it was by accident. And then eventually I went full time with it, which was about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And been doing it ever since. And we have a team here, or I have a team here that we run everything in-house.
Okay.
So yeah, and we focus on North Texas mainly.
Okay.
And we've done a little bit out of state. We've done a little bit outside of North Texas, but I think North Texas is our bread and butter.
Right.
And keeps us very busy.
Yeah. Well, so on average, how much do you have out on the streets at any given time?
It totally depends. I mean, we don't, it just depends on the day, but over 100 loans at any given time.
I love that.
Yeah. And so we've been, it's been great because the market's been super strong. Yeah. North Texas keeps growing. So what I used to call Dallas-Fort Worth has gotten bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Well, Dallas-Fort Worth as a flipper myself, we started, it's been 5.5 years ago, ballpark. I think January was 5 or 6 years. It was so easy when we first got started. I mean, there were just deals to be had everywhere. And now, when you're centrally located and you have so many people that are getting in and everyone's turning over all the rocks, then sometimes you say, well, let me just step outside and go a little further. So we're going into, personally, we're down south towards, Covington and Hubbard, but Granbury and so within like an hour and a half.
Granbury now feels like it's part of the Metroplex.
Granbury was like, the honey hole, right? It's like no one knows about Granbury and it's like everyone knows about Granbury now. So there's good money to be made there. So, okay. So tell me in general, maybe we have some people that are watching that maybe we're speaking a different language to them.
Totally.
So in general, what is a hard money loan?
Totally. So hard money loan, it has several different titles, names. It could be called private money, an investor loan, hard money. We like to say private money at Bosse Lending because we are truly a private fund. But what it is it is a short-term loan for investment property. That's important. It's for an investment property. It's not for a home that you live in or whoever is buying the house to live in. It's for an investment property, and it's a short-term loan. And typically it's used for properties that are either closing super fast because one reason or another from the seller, it's distressed. So a conventional loan wouldn't work because it would need to be rehabbed, brought to living conditions before they would close on it. Or the borrower maybe doesn't qualify for a conventional loan. So it's for all those reasons. And it's an investment loan. It's short term. The interest rate is higher, but not much now, than a conventional loan. Short term, And it is used for people to buy property, fix the properties up, and either sell them or refinance them. So, in short, the definition is it's an asset-based loan, meaning it looks first at the property and less at the borrower. So
Right.
it's really good for real estate investors fix and flipping, or that have a, an exit strategy.
Right.
Because I think that's the most important thing, is that, like, you can buy a house with these loans, but how are you going to exit the loan, exit the house? What's the plan?
Right. So I know the very first deal that we ever
Yeah.
did, you were our lender on that deal, and I've talked about that here on the show. As a matter of fact, last week's episode. So I had come across this deal where it was a gentleman that I had listed his house before, and he was a painter, and he called and said, "Hey, I've got a customer for you." He said, "I just did some sheetrock repair on her house. We painted it. She wants to sell it." That's all that I knew. So I spoke with this lady, and her daughter had passed away, an adult daughter, and left the home to their adult son, who had just trashed the house. He was
Yeah.
basically like 20 years old and had a free house and trashed it. So grandma gets the house back because he was just tearing this house apart, and rips all the carpet out because it was in horrible condition. They had stolen the outside AC unit, but other than that, it was in great shape.
Yeah.
Because all of the painting had
Yeah.
just been done, the sheetrock. And she says, "I need to sell it." And it was in Mansfield. It was in a great little
Yeah,
brick
don't you wish
house.
you would have kept it?
Oh, I do all the time. We talk about that all the time. And so I said, "Well, we've got to put some kind of floor covering down, because to qualify for conventional financing, you have to have some kind of a floor covering."
Yep.
And it was just concrete.
Yeah.
And, tack stripping and stuff was
Yeah.
still around the corners. And I said, "You got to have an AC. You have to have some kind of AC unit." And she's like, "I don't have any money at all."
Yep.
And so I went to some people that I knew. I didn't have contractors at the time because I wasn't a flipper. And I went to some people that I knew and said, "Hey, any chance you'd be willing to let us install this stuff and maybe pay at closing?" And we were just jumping over hurdles, and it didn't seem like it was going to work. And I was just mentioning this to Jacob, my business partner and best friend. And we had been talking about, possibly doing some flips. And he said to me, "Well, why don't we buy it?" And I said, are you sure is what we want to do?" And he said, "Yeah." And so we were going to go down and get a traditional loan, which was going to be an investment property. And we ran into those hurdles where, you can't get regular financing and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And
it's a ton of paperwork. Not even, like,
yes,
even if you can get it, it takes forever.
right,
It's
because
such a
she was
headache.
ready to go right
Yeah.
then. And I had gone to her and said, if you don't, I laid it out for her and said, "Look, if you can get this stuff done, you'll put it on the market and you can sell retail.
Yep.
But if not, you're gonna have to sell to an investor because it's cash money only." And she says, I'm okay with taking selling at a discount for cash and closing."
Yeah.
So we had spoken, and I don't remember where I'd even gotten your information. It may have been Tony.
Yeah,
Tony
Tony
Salinas.
Salinas.
He may have been the one that gave me the number. And I remember we talked, and you said, "Yeah, let's do it." And we had a small budget. Now I realize now it was a small budget. To us, it was a big deal. I think it was like, and we may have handled. I think we handled the repair budget ourselves because it was only like 15 grand. It wasn't a big deal.
I can go back and look.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Let me claim the fact that we did it ourselves. But it was the easiest process. It blew me away how easy it was. I remember you had at the time, you had a guy on the ground that would kind of come and walk around the property and stuff.
Yeah.
And you said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we closed on the house super quick, and we put, 12, 15 grand into it and put it on the market. Now get this. This was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, cute as can be brick house that basically looked brand new when we were done with it.
I'm sure.
We put carpet, a new AC unit, changed some ceiling fans out. We put granite in the counter in the kitchen. That's about it. It's all that it needed. Everything else was in great shape. Maybe some landscaping, and I think we spent about 17, 15 grand, somewhere around in there, and sold it for 182.
How much did you buy it for? Do you remember?
128. So we made, after everything was said and done, because we only kept it for like 3 weeks, and then, from the time that we closed to put it to one on the market, so all in 7, 8 weeks or so. But I think we made like 17 grand or so on it. And I was like, this was the easiest 60 days of our life. And we did the work ourselves because it was changing ceiling fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't install the carpet or the AC. So maybe we did some of the work ourselves. And I just knew at that point, my life just changed.
Wow.
And that opened the door. Like you were saying just now, when you're saying, we get to be blessings to these people. I'm thinking, no, that was us. Like that was me. Like if it wasn't for that, for you and just, the Lord working it out where we crossed paths, I don't think we ever would have realized that potential and gotten into what we do now. That was a gateway for us. So
wow. Thank you for
So
saying
thank you.
that.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you
an
for
amazing
saying
lender, of
that.
course.
Well, I think, and one thing you just brought up, which is important, I think, and we could look at the numbers, we don't need to, but like the amount of money that you brought into that deal versus what you made, your return on your investment, on your cash investment, was probably close to 100%.
Oh, 100, easy. Yes, yes.
And I think that's one thing that you have, even if you could have paid that deal cash yourself, then what other opportunity are you missing out on?
Right.
By using a loan, whether it's hard money, conventional money, whatever it may be, if you're using debt correctly, then you're opening yourself up. That's how you make real money.
Right, leveraging.
So leveraging yourself.
Then
that's when your return on your investment just skyrockets.
Okay, so you're right. So let me lean on that. That was our first house. We didn't really know a whole lot, and the budget was small.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, right?
Totally.
No,
that's a small budget, and especially now.
Yeah, exactly. But now, since then, we've done deals where maybe we bring to the table 15 grand on a deal all in, maybe 150, 180 that you leveraged, right? Or that you loaned on. So where maybe out of our pocket, we spend 15 to 20,000, but we've made 40 and 50 on it.
Yeah, wild.
200, 250% of our cash out of pocket investment. So, so using that as a tool, when you do it wisely, is 100% a money-making tool. So completely. So let me ask you this. We talked about the private loan, hard money lending. What are some of the other products that you guys offer? Are there other products, or what does that look like?
So in 2022, we rolled out offering 30-year rental notes.
Okay.
So now, if you have a loan with Bosse Lending and you want to refinance and keep it as a rental property, we have a 30-year note option.
Okay.
Which is amazing. It's a debt service credit ratio. Sorry, debt service coverage ratio. A DSCR loan. And it's super easy, and we do everything in-house, so we help you with that. And if the loan's ready with Bosse Lending, then we can really help facilitate that, and it's pretty awesome. Okay,
so when you're saying debt service coverage ratio, essentially this is a term that we normally use in commercial lending. That says there's a certain percentage that, based on whatever you put down, the loan, whatever the payment is, your income from that property has to be over and above by a certain percentage to make the deal work. So let me throw a deal at you real quick.
All right.
I met a gentleman yesterday, and I was driving by, and he had, there was a storage building that's around the corner from my house, an individual, like one storage. So we just closed, we're closing tomorrow on our old house, and we've already been in the new house for over a year now, but I know there's some storage that I'm going to need. And I said, you know what, let me turn around and get the number off this sign and just see, what is this guy asking for this unit? So that opened up so many doors. Come and find out, there's this property, okay? It's about 2.5 acres, and it's 3 minutes from my house. So it's about 10 or 12 minutes from here, outside of the city limits. And he's got 3 individual single wide RV spots, not RVs, single wides, trailers. Now, the first one, I remember he had a sign out for the longest time that said trailer for sale. And I thought about it because I'm always looking for good deals. And we've got spots where we can put this trailer. But eventually that sign went away, and I found out he's pulling the trailer out. He says, look, I'm going to put 2 RV spots there. So he's got 2 single wides. Property's beautiful, by the way. 2 single wides that he rents for $850 a month.
Wow.
Each. One of the guys been there 10 years. I mean, he's got a nice awning and everything. The guy takes very good care of this property. Then you've got this other one rented for $850. Then you have this other one that had been rented for $850, but he's pulling it out. He's like, I want to do 2 RV spots there. Right next to it is this storage building that I looked at. When I walked in, it's about 900 square foot maybe. And you could tell this place had been an apartment. He's like, someone converted it to an apartment. But the only issue, it's got a kitchen, had a bathroom. It was in great shape.
Okay.
But he says, it's got a tin roof and it gets hot in here. It's sheetrocked. But there's not any insulation. It's basically 2x6s that they sheetrocked, right? So I'm telling him, as I'm trying to help him, and I said, well, you could foam that, you could take that down, we could put insulation in here for less than $2,000 probably, and because it was really just looked like a New York style loft apartment, right? Just one big open space.
So cool.
And he's like, oh, the guy had his pool table over here, and blah blah blah. And I said, you could rent this out for like $1,200, easy, easy, easy. Right next to that is a house, cute as can be, little house that he'd had for the longest, had a sign up. And I wanted to call him on this one and I didn't, but it says house for sale, no pets. And he had this house for rent, no pets. And he had the sign up there for at least 6 weeks, which no house should sit, a cute little house like that. Well, so that was the first question I asked him. I said, this is your house too? And he said, yeah. I said, what did you rent this house for? He says, $1,900 a month.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, what all does it come with? Surely there's more to it. Maybe it comes with a storage building.
Yeah.
He said, just a front yard. And now he said, it's cute. It's a nice house. It's a sleeper is what he kept saying to me. You don't imagine, you don't expect how nice it is. And you walk in, 1,700 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, cute little house, nothing major, little front yard, and no pets. Has a carport. That's it. $1,900. Right next to it is a shop, 30 by 55. Very well done, sits back off the road, so has tons of room for storage, parking, and stuff. And he runs a landscaping business out of it, has a built-in office in there, restroom, the whole 9 yards, fully insulated. And this is the guy that just really takes care of the property, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you walk around, I just want to spend the day walking this property, right? And he says, his wife's there with us, and she says, what do you think this would rent for? And I said, I haven't run numbers. I try not to run numbers on a property until after I see it, because I don't want to get something in my mind and then try to reconfirm.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, I'm going to guess probably $3,000 to $3,500 for the shop, because it's got good road frontage. It's on Rendon and full electric insulation. It's got the office. You've got parking in the front for trailers or whatever you want to do here. This is a nice spot. And she's like, I was thinking like 2,000. So here's what I'm thinking. I said, let me run numbers on this. So I'm thinking, okay, we've got 3 spots over here.
Yeah.
And this is so for this is how I would go to Ashley with a deal anyhow. I'm just doing it right now in front of everybody. So we've got 1 spot over here that is bringing in, 2 of them are rented right now at $1,700. The other should be another $850. So let's call that $2,400. And then that storage building easily would rent for $1,200. So we're at $3,600. The house is bringing in $19, so that's $55. And then let's say $2,500 on the other shop, which I know it would probably bring close to $35. So all in, what is that? Like $7,000 a month in rental income. But given the market and how weird it is, it's not a cut like like a regular house or whatever. Part of it's zoned commercial, part of which would be easy to fix, but the other part is residential. So I honestly think that if I put it on the market, like 700 is kind of what I'm thinking. So is that something that if the DSCR was in line, is that something you guys would lend on?
So we would lend on the house.
Okay.
We'd look at the storage, but the problem is with the mobile homes, we can't. And that's the one tough.
You can't take that rent into consideration. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So mobile homes, as you know, manufactured homes, ones that are, as I say, the ones that had the wheels taken off that are, now considered real property are amazing, and you can make a lot of money buying and selling them. They're just very hard for the long-term financing, which is unfortunate.
Sure.
But the other parts we can take into consideration, and we can look at it. And for the DSCR, our ratio is 1.1, meaning that you need to make 110% more.
That's good.
Yeah, so 10% or over what the debt service and your expenses are, which your expenses are, your mortgage, your taxes, and your insurance. And we look at all of that.
So if the house, the storage, if it's turned, the storage building, it'll be turned into a house, and the shop. Between the 3 of those, if that fell into the 1.1, would
we
that
could
then
look
work?
at that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the shop to see, because now you're mixing residential and commercial, but we try to get creative as we can. DSCR, is definitely more of like a box. You have to fit more into it. The short-term financing we can get a little more creative with. Okay. But yeah, we could definitely look at that.
All right, I got another one for you. Not right now. We'll talk later. Because you've been asked, like, hey, are we going to do another deal? I was like, yes, I've got one.
I love that. Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm excited. I'm like, all right, let me put a deal together. So, okay. So here's a question for you. Tell me why you're different. Because at the end of the day, especially like social media, for example,
Totally.
if you're Googling like investments and hard money and all this stuff, then you're getting pinged with all of these ads, and everyone says, we're the best lender out there. Yeah. Real talk. This is your time to pat yourself on the back. Tell me why Bosse Lending is better than the other lenders. Why are we doing business with you instead of other people?
Well, I think I didn't mean to do that, but I never say that we're better. We're different, because every borrower, every investor is different too. And so we're not for everybody, and not everybody's for us.
Okay.
And I also think that in general, that if you're a real estate investor and this is what you're doing full time, you need to build your team. You need to build your team of contractors. You need to build your team of real estate agents. If you're not an agent, you need to build your team of lenders. Like, you have to build your team. And just like every contractor might not, the same contractor might not be the right person for every rehab. The same lender might not be the right lender for every rehab. But for Bossy Lending, why we're different, what we're different is one, we're local. So we're
Hmm.
based in Dallas. Our office is in Bishop Arts.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. And we do everything in-house.
Hmm.
So if you don't really know a lot about private lending and you go to a nationwide lender, which is, there's nothing wrong with them, you're going to call 1-800 number.
Right.
You're going to have to, fill out a ton of paperwork and really fit into their criteria, which is very set and there's no flexibility. And once you actually close on the property, the loan originates, your loan probably is going to get sold, meaning that now whoever you want to talk to for your draws or for your monthly interest or anything else, you're going to have to call someone else,
Right.
most likely. Which again, nothing wrong with that. But if you're newer to this, or if you want like ease and flexibility and looking for just like a little bit more personalized customer service,
Hmm.
that might not be the best option for you.
Okay.
So we do everything in house. We the pre-closing process is done internally at our team. Once the loan originates, we have a servicing part of our business that we do everything in house there. All the rehab draws we do. When you're ready to pay the loan back, that comes from us too internally. So everything is within Bossy Lending, and that I think that's really it's one thing that we have done, kept like very much. It's a very part of our core values to keep our investors as happy as possible. Um, and I think that has also helped our clients grow because we work differently. We move faster.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I can tell you, I'll tell you a little bit because if I'm understanding what you're saying, it makes sense as you grow. Maybe have a couple of different options out there.
Yeah.
We either will self-fund a deal if
Yep.
it makes sense for us to do that.
Yep.
There's you, and then I have one other hard money lender they're not as structured as you guys by any means, and so because of that, they're a little more quick to say, yeah, that's fine, here's the money. But at the same time, I don't know that they're as liquid because everything that they do goes in their name, and which means the way that they do it is they're using lines of credit. And so there's a lien that they place on it, and everything's in their name. And then at closing, they settle up, and then they send us our money. So it makes sense to have a few different options because there may be something, for example, I go to you with and say, I love this deal. And you're like, I love it too, but I can't do it because of fill in the blank.
Yep.
So you have some backups. But what I like about doing business with you is you're on top of all the deals, and you'll text personally and say, hey, how is this going? What's going on? Or I'll text you directly and say, hey, we hit a snag, or we're already under contract.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like you celebrate with us.
Totally.
Or like you take those hits with us, like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Don't worry, you're going to get it back under contract. And you're not going to get that from other people. When we first got started, I remember not only, again, is your guy walking these properties, but you're telling us, Jimmy, I don't think you should do that deal. Like it was a $40,000 buy, right? Because the market was different back then. But you're just said, you guys are new. That's a lot to take on. Are you sure? And I think another lender would just check the financials and say, yep, you're done. Here's your money. Let me know. But I really feel like you're more personally invested with these deals. And that kind of leads me into the next segment, because that's fantastic for somebody that maybe doesn't have a ton of experience and may need a little more guidance, a little more handholding. So if there's somebody watching, because again, like I mentioned last week, we're going to be doing a class coming up that's going to really just answer all the questions that somebody who's interested in getting into flipping may have, basic general questions, all the way into some more intricate details. And Ashley, you're going to be a part of that with us. And so what about a new, let's say somebody who has just always wanted to do this but have never flipped a house before. Maybe they don't have a ton of real estate experience and they're interested in getting into this. What advice would you have for them in this market right now?
Okay. Well, I think one, start building your team.
Okay.
Look, if you're not a real estate agent, you need to look for a real estate agent that can guide you, because you can't, if you're going to look at wholesalers to entrust their valuation of the property, you're in trouble.
Yeah, because they've got their hand in the pot there. So.
Yeah, so you need someone, a professional in the real estate market, who can guide you as to a good deal or a bad deal. You need to have contractors, because finding the deal, I always joke, that's kind of not the easy part, but that's one part of it. But then actually fixing it up well, that's hard.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's hard, and especially in this market where buyers are pickier than they were.
Okay.
You need to make sure that your property is fixed up well. So build your team. And I think the other biggest misconception in general about real estate is either that you need to have all the money, like you need to save up 200 grand,
Right.
or you need to have $0.
Yeah.
Like you'll find a lender who will just cover everything. And that's just, neither of those, I don't think, are the right way to go about it.
Right.
So Bossy Lending suggests that you have about 25% of the project costs in liquid assets. So if you break that down, let's just say the total the project, you're buying the house for 70 grand and the rehab's 30 grand. Let's just use round numbers.
Sure.
So the $100,000 total project cost. I'm saying that you need to have around $25,000 liquid to go towards real estate investing. And where's that money going to go? 10% is going to go towards your down payment. And about another 5% will go towards closing, miscellaneous fees, the loan closing fee, whatever else. So now you're at 15%. Then you have about another 5 to 7% going towards monthly carrying costs and interest. So now you're at 22%. And then 3% will go towards miscellaneous, the AC breaks, and you hadn't budgeted for that. You know, instead of sweating it, you have the money set aside.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is make sure that you're set up financially to start investing. And if you're not, then how do you get to that point, or how do you partner with somebody? And if you have 200 grand sitting, then you're probably ready.
Right. Absolutely. So if you got 200 grand, you're good to go. I love that you said that you did that because, and we had not talked about that, but that's kind of what the class is going to be, is essentially, let me share my experience with you, answer some questions, but also provide an opportunity for a new investor to kind of connect with the people that I have made connections with over the years with our contractors. At the end of the day, I can't keep my tile guy busy all the time.
No.
And yet I don't want to lose him to somebody else. And so if I can build the network of other people that can use my tile guy, he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And that's a benefit to somebody, because I know when we got started, I'm calling people and I'm saying, you know, someone who installs granite, like, you know, I don't want to go to the big box store and get my carpet, that kind of thing, you know?
Totally.
So building that team is essential. And that's kind of something that we're going to get into in the class as well. The team, I think, is fundamental.
The team is everything, because you can't do it without that.
Right.
You just can't.
I love it. Okay. So we're almost done. So I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What is your why? What is the reason? At the end of the day, it's not about dollars and cents. It can't be. What is the reason? And you kind of hit a little bit on this when we first got started, but tell me, what is the reason that you do what you do? What is your why?
One, I love it.
Okay.
I do love it. And like I said before, it's about growing, about helping. It's about not helping. Bossy Lending is not a charity, but it's about empowering others to grow their business. And what Bossy Lending does provides so many opportunities to title companies, real estate agents, rehabbers, your tile guy, like everybody. And for me, that's like the ultimate success, to see all these different people succeeding. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And what you said before about me celebrating your success, I do, because most people aren't getting rich off one flip.
Right. So
if I can't celebrate your success or feel your a downfall, then what am I here for? I'm here for you to succeed.
Right.
I want you to succeed. I want you to surpass your goal number. I want that. Like, I truly want that, because there's nothing better than seeing that. Like, there really isn't.
Yeah. Well, I want that too. So that's good.
So that's really,
okay. I love it. Okay, so we're going to wrap this episode up. And with every episode of The Closing Call, we close with a call to action. So I told you I was going to throw this at you, and she's like, I don't even want to think about it right now, so I want you to just hit me with it. So we're going to close. So I want to ask you, Ashley, what is your one call to action for our viewers? And it can be anything in the world, whatever you would like it to be.
I think look at one thing today that gets you one step closer to real estate investing. If you're listening to this podcast, you're interested somehow, in some way, and a lot of us have fear that stops us. So do one thing. Look at Bossy Lending's website. Grab a real estate investing book. Read the real estate section of the Dallas Morning News today. Do one thing.
Or the Star Telegram.
Yeah. Do one thing just to get you more in that conversation, get your
Okay.
wheels spinning.
I love it. So do one thing today that gets you closer to real estate investing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, but on YouTube and Facebook, Spotify, where the podcast is going to be, I'll also have the link to the website
That'd be great.
information, and
Yeah.
contact information for Ashley as well. So
Yeah.
don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys listening, and have a blessed day.